Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
I don't know, I may have my grandson, so. I think he'll-
Ready? I'd like to call the City of Ione Tuesday, June 18th regular meeting to order. Janice, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Atlas.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Here.
Councilmember Rhodes,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ratten.
Here.
And Mayor Bay.
Here. Item B, I would like closed session conference with legal counsel and anticipated litigation. I would like to move to the end of the meeting. Can I get a motion for that?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Report out of closed session is going to move to the end of the meeting as well. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, we have presentations and announcement. First is presentation of status of wastewater treatment plants.
Good evening, council members. Kathy Stone, saw you guys a couple weeks ago, and we have Justin with us today and Thomas. And we've been asked to do kind of an update of the system and where we're at. So we have a presentation. Pictures are show 1,000 words. So we talked about something, you guys may not know exactly what we're talking about. So Justin's going to kind of go through some of the pictures, and I will as well, and kind of tell you the status of where we are, what we need to be doing to move forward for the Title 22. So those are the kind of things that we're going to go over for tonight. So we can ask questions at the end, or if you guys have questions during, feel free to ask.
We'll wait till the end.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, hello, everybody. This is, I just gave myself a paper cut. This is wastewater in color for you all tonight. We're gonna talk about the Title 22 and also the proposal that we have been working on to efficiently cut costs and get the equipment needed for the plant. If you can skip the slide, please. So, a big thing that we're going to talk about going through this is just, mainly outdated equipment. This right here is a turbidity meter for our influent. It's a scatter turbidity meter. Plants phased out from this, over a decade ago. We have plans for that as well. I seen in the log books.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah,
It's somebody's fan belt.
somebody needs a new belt on their.
Well, we
motor.
thought everybody was getting towed last time, but let's wait. Something.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, when I got there at the plant, I began going through log books and seeing, what past operators, struggled with there and issues they came across. And the big thing is, these turbidity meters. We've been doing everything by hand. It's more accurate than these. These things just to calibrate. I don't trust it. So, we've been doing everything by hand, and it's a bit old fashioned, but it's working. We'll get more into the turbidity meters here in a second. If you could please skip to the next slide. Right here are our piping for our chemical feed throughout the plant. So what I've discovered, cutting and re-plumbing in for chemical dosing is that all these lines are all clogged, and it's just brown and just clogged up with, this substance called Palmer. It's like a gelatinous when it meets the water, and everything's just clogged there. So we're doing things to work around that. But the overall, objective here is long-term solutions that do not allow this, to happen again or any, further on. Things that we're talking about right now are keeping the plant running, year round and keeping the water moving through there so that way we can keep the lines, running and just everything operating. Because what happens when you turn something off and then you turn it back on and it's, hitting with all this water, things leak, things are clogged. And when it sits all year long, like I said, these lines are all clogged. So we're really struggling with that right now. But, as I said, we're working around that. Can we please go to the next slide? So this is our chlorine feed room. So we have our chlorine tank on the outside and it feeds, gravity feeds through this room right here and then over to our contact tank and also our sand filters. This is just a nightmare. This is, PVC and Schedule 80 piping. We are making moves here with this new proposal to phase out all of these flawed things we've used in the past with just new simplified things that are out there. One example is, can you please grab the pipe? The broken pipe. Here's one thing we cut out, from our plant. This is a PVC pipe, and what you're seeing here is just all these different joints, and what that is all these different flaws. You get one little crack in there, and in the middle of the night, the whole chlorine will shut off on you. The whole system will shut down on you, and there's just way more effective ways. Can you grab the tubing? We're gonna switch to tubing. It's cheaper. That right there, I mean, that whole setup cost $7. You buy this tubing, we can get 500 feet of it on, Amazon for $100. We switch to this and we have, little fittings here and there and a couple pieces of, Schedule 80 to, do things like bleed lines. And what switching to this does for us is you can now see air bubbles. You can see, clogs. You can see the flaws as opposed to, this that's, a nightmare waiting to happen. It's easier to keep an eye on things. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is what we're kind of doing there. I cut away from the old pretzel Schedule 80 piping that we had, and I moved to just a line coming in, going through a pump, and then going out, as opposed to going through all these different channels with valves and it wasn't working. We'd have one day of good feed and the next day it'd be off. So we just cut through it, and once we get this proposal to you guys, we move forward, it'll be much more simplified. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is what's running our plant right now. It's a very, very small peristaltic pump, but it's working. Luckily, we're gravity fed there. What we plan to do is move towards these better diaphragm pumps that can regulate, the amount of, flow coming in, and apply the, amount of PSI that's needed to, breach into the lines, and dose the flow. These new pumps that we're going to have are cheaper than the ones in the past. We have used these really big diaphragm pumps that cost $7,000 a piece and $1,000 to replace the motor. These new diaphragm pumps are going to be around $5,000. I'm not for sure yet for my final, price on it. And these heads on them, we can swap out, as opposed to $1,000 for a new tower on these old diaphragm pumps. It's going to cost less than $400 to swap those out. And the majority of the time, it's just swapping out the line because the line has been, beaten down from spinning around and around, pushing, the chemicals through. So again, we are working towards these new solutions with new technology. These new pumps we're going to get can communicate with our SCADA system and say, hey, slow down the water. We're at 2.2, chlorine dose. Let's slow it down. And that's going to be great. Yeah, moving into the future. Can we go to the next slide, please? Here is our compressors. These feed our sand filters and also over to our clarifier where our water storage, our wastewater storage is. It's very critical to the job we're doing there. And we're having some problems with it. If we can go to the next slide. The reason I just wanted to show this is kind of give you guys just some pictures of what you're going to be having slid across your desk as far as, quotes and prices for replacing. Again, our sand filters are another issue for another day. We're getting by this year. We're meeting effluent quality standards, which is great. But yeah, there are things that, have been kind of tossed to the wayside. And as a result, our new air compressor that we have, has an issue now because our sand filters that haven't had, the sand changed out in 20 years, is causing this. It's kind of a chain reaction at wastewater treatment plants. We go to the next slide, please. Here's our sand filters. There's our beautiful effluent coming over. It's fed up, and just to tell you, and this is great for the public to see too, kind of how I'm kind of going in sequence of where it starts and where it ends. Our water's coming in right now, and it goes from the bottom up through sand, and it feeds up and it goes through a bubbler system that takes out the waste of it all and disposes it in that clarifier I was talking about. And then the effluent comes over the weirs and then it's fed to our final contact tank where we introduce chemicals to it, chlorine, to remove the last of the bacteria. We go to the next slide, please. Here are our turbidity meters. We are proposing to you, council, 6 new turbidity meters. What we have right now are these very old MTOLs that are really hard to calibrate, very inaccurate. They cost new over $5,000 a piece. We are switching to laser jet technology. These lasers that are going to be able to accurately, read our turbidity, as well as self-clean. We're going to have self-cleaning towers, so we don't have to open them up all the time. Pull the cuvette out, which is the reader where the water comes into. You're doing that, and that's what's messing up your calibration. You have a tower on there that self-cleans. You're not getting in there. You're not disturbing it. It's going to be way more efficient. Right now, what you're seeing is one of our cabinets that's just been cannibalized over the years. It's not even plumbed in. Can we go to the next slide, please? That's one that's kind of fully intact. It still doesn't work. As you can see, there's nothing kind of going up to it. It's just there. We'll go to the next slide, please. That one's just not even there. That one got ripped and went somewhere else too. Can you pull the old one out? Sorry, this one's buried at the bottom. Don't let the cardboard box defeat you. So this is the old one right here. Raise it up, raise it up. So these are the old ones. You take this off, you pull it out. And right there is where our water quality is going through. And it reads through there, and that's what tells us our turbidity. The new ones are going to be sweet. They're going to come down and clean it up in there for us. And that way we don't have to disturb, the turbidity and the light that's, projected onto it, giving us a reading. And they're cheaper. They're newer. It's what everyone's using. And it's going to be great. This is a chlorine analyzer. Now, going back to the Title 22, that is our main issue right now in our Title 22 is our chlorine feed. So what we're doing is working with West Yost on this tracer study. And what the tracer study is going to do is tell us the approximate amount of chlorine we need to dose into our water. They're going to study our water over months and tell us, the highs and the lows. And that way we can calibrate what will be a new chlorine analyzer. This is very, very old, and it doesn't even turn on anymore. We're going to have new chlorine analyzers that talk with our system saying, fluctuate up, fluctuate down, and falling in line with the Title 22. So very, very important that this is like the main pinnacle of it right here is getting this new chlorine analyzer. Can we go to the next slide, please? SCADA. SCADA is also in the talk. SCADA is our communications at our plant. It's how we get our alarms. It calls us at 3 in the morning and says, come in here. It doesn't tell us much more than that because it's very, very old. So, I get that alarm. I'm in the truck there and hoping there's something very serious. And so far it hasn't been, only except for the compressor night. But I've never even seen a cabinet like this until showing up here. This is all, manual hand switches. There's keys on it. It looks very terrifying. Can we go to the next one, please? This is the inside of the cabinet. Every time I show a tech this, they go, whoa, this is old. It's working though. It's working right now. It gives us the alarm. It's working. Can we go to the next slide, please? That alarm cancel is the worst thing you got to look at between the hours of 1 and 5 in the morning, because when you get that call from the tertiary plant, we don't have anything yet that we can get on there and acknowledge or look at what's exactly is going on. So you got every 15 minutes, and he's on it too. We both get the calls. Every 15 minutes between, I got to call the internet at 2 in the morning. You're getting called until you get in there and you press that button right there. And then, you go and you figure out what's going on. So it could be exciting sometimes in the middle of the night. So right here is things that we, encountered when we got there that were just kind of torn apart. If you go to the next slide, please. We started putting things back together and they work, which is great. We've really honed in on, what's torn apart and what still works, because again, we respect the ratepayer and we want to make sure that we're not going to say, hey, I got to buy a new motor. This thing was torn apart. So we're really trying to put things back together first before we go and, bug George about, signing off on something. That's a gate valve. That controls the flow of the water coming. It's hanging off the wall. The first day I got there, I go to turn it and I'm like, this isn't doing anything. And we drain it out and sure enough, it's just detached from the wall. Again, other improvements are gonna come up in the future, right? But for now, we're getting by with what it is. And again, this is just kind of bringing, to the attention of, when Justin slides something across your desk with a ticket on it, we kind of understand what it is. And I'm glad we're able to do this right now. Can we go to the next one? This is the most immediate thing. I've been working with George on. This is our effluent flow meter. We want to know what we're sending on the golf course. That's what the tertiary was built for. Right now, I'm literally taking the amount of horsepower from the motor and I'm multiplying it by the amount of minutes in the day, and I'm getting a number. It's probably around the ballpark, but it's not, it's not accurate. But all in all, we are still able to feed the demand for the golf course at the moment. It's been going well. Can we go to the next one, please? That's the inside of that meter. It's totally rusted out. Can we go to the next one, please? Things are exposed as wire. That's not safe. Luckily, it doesn't work. Can we go to the next one, please? That's a conduit that's just kind of taped. So water's getting down in there. When the contractor came out to look at it, I said, hey, let's see if we can fix this first before going down this $6,000 project of, redoing the wiring, repumping the wiring back to our SCADA communication system because these were exposed. So I'm really hoping here that that's not going to be the issue. But yeah, this is kind of like I said, the things that we're experiencing. Can we go to the next one, please? And this is just kind of basic. We care about the plant. Can we go to the next one, please? We're painting things. We want things to stand out and look nice. We care about where we work. We love our job. We love serving this community. We love the support. Let me see what else I got. So that's the end of that one. Can we go to a couple more? That's one of our fuse boxes. Oh, did you want to talk about pretreatment?
Sure. We put in flyers for the pretreatment program in the March newsletter, I believe. And so we've been working with the city in regards to pretreatment inspections. I've got together a list. I'm going to get with Jordan and get the name of the businesses and even some of the food trucks that find out where they're discharging their oil and grease. So we're just trying to educate the population or the public on pretreatment and don't dump this stuff down the drain. And so we're actively going to be, I'm going to review the ordinance. I reviewed it before, but I'll do it again. And then we'll do the inspections kind of like on a quarterly basis of the restaurants and things here in town. So we did put that flyer in as requested in the March. We're going to actively work on certifying the lab. We talked about that. We're waiting for the contract and all that to find out what was going to be going on. So I'll work with George and Jody on getting the check to the state. And then we have to do some proficiency testing. I already have the QA/QC manual done, so I have to submit that. Plus, I think it's a fee of $4,000, and then we have to do some proficiency testing to do the coliforms, which will save the city some money. And especially to do it on site, we get the results right away. So we're struggling with waiting for results. It's frustrating because you don't really know sometimes. So that's what that is, and we'll be working on that in the next couple of weeks. So next slide, I think is next slide. Oh, yeah, that's just the lab. And this is what Justin's just been talking about, the improvements that need to be made that he's basically been showing you in the presentation.
So we took a very large quote with a lot of verbiage on it and we dissected it. We looked at what they were pitching to us and, after looking at it, it's, turbidity meters, new pumps for the chlorine in our polymer feed and also our new chlorine analyzer. And with that comes, different things like, using tubing as opposed to all this piping and just simplifying that plant to where, when we got there, there wasn't anybody to tell us, here and there. So I'm trying to make it to where, if we were to leave in 3 years, wastewater, Waterstone, get out of here. 3 years, somebody can walk in there and say, oh, I know I could turn this on, I get this, and make it simplified for, the future. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is a video. Can we play this video?
Go down to the bottom. Yeah, there you go. The bottom. There you go.
So this is our pond back in February when, me and Thomas were first starting, Thomas over here. Sorry to the public for the duckweed. I know it was been terrible to look at, but we waited till we got out of the winter season to the, more hotter weather where we could use our, herbicides in the water and have it be more effective as opposed to spraying it during the wet, overcast weather where it doesn't, the heat and the sun helps beat down with our herbicide on this duckweed right here. So over the past few months, Thomas here has gotten to know these ponds very well. We've begun to use and effectively apply the herbicides. Thomas, do you want to talk briefly about what we're using? There he is right there in the early morning, spraying.
Yes, for the duckweed, we're
He did it
using,
by hand too. I just want to say real quick. He was doing it by hand too. Go ahead,
Can
sorry.
you pause it just for a sec? Thank you, thank you.
for the duckweed, we're using Denali and SureGuard, which is all EPA regulated and quality, Eco Advantage friendly and aquatic approved. We have to make sure we don't overdo the ponds as much at once because it will ruin the pH levels. So we can only do half of a pond at a time, which that has to take time for the biological processes to get moving and start diluting the water and killing the duckweed.
Yeah, we got to watch our bugs. Our bugs are what break down our BOD. So he's really figured out, how to apply it, in the right doses. And as you can see right here, this was taken yesterday, a video, and that's what the ponds look like now. So if you were looking at that video earlier, of it just covered in green, here is it yesterday. He's done a great job and couldn't be happier with the progress we've made on that. Let's see what's that. Yeah, this is just basic routine, maintenance around the plant. I enjoy driving heavy equipment around, so this is kind of fun for me right here. This is kind of one of those like weird videos where you watch people scooping things up. It's like kind of gratifying to watch. Again, just basic maintenance. Let's see. Oh yeah, sorry. Those are our sludge drying beds. So all the bad stuff that comes out of those sand filters I was telling you about, it then goes over to where I said the storage is, and then we send it over to there and we scoop it out, put it in the dumpster, and send it off to the landfill. Let's see. Aerators, we maintain our aerators. We get out there and we oil and grease them. We stay on top of those. We had trouble with them when we first got there. A lot of them were down, which was leading to us having BOD trouble. But we got our efficient mixing going again. I hope in the future, to work with council on also adding, extra ones to, better mix our incoming water. But again, those are things later down the line. Let's see. Yeah, what's that? Oh, yeah. Again, that's the PVC right there. And that's what it takes. It takes buying all the new fittings and parts and all the glue and everything, as opposed to what we're going to try to switch to, this is us, taking apart and reinstalling aerators. For some reason, one of the aerators was in a pond it shouldn't have been in when Waterstone took over. It kind of, that's a bunch of rags caught in it. But yeah, it's been a blast. The last 3 months, it's been a blast. It's been a lot going on. And I'm just going to close real quick with, we can go to the next one. Just saying something to, you, the public. As we conclude today's presentation, I would like to take a moment to reflect on our journey and the progress we've made at the wastewater treatment plant. Every day we uncover new insights and learn more about the intricacies of wastewater treatment. Our passion for this work drives us, and we are committed to continuously improving our process to meet and exceed state regulations. We are here for the long haul, dedicated to seeing our projects through to successful completion. We understand and deeply respect the importance of the taxpayers' dollars entrusted to us. I assure you that every dollar spent is carefully considered and essential to achieving our objectives. Over the past 2 months, our golf course has been receiving water from our facility, and I'm proud to report that we have maintained full compliance with no violations. This is a significant milestone demonstrating our commitment to excellence and environmental responsibility. Despite working with outdated and broken equipment, we are doing the utmost to maintain high standards. However, I'm pleased to say that the light at the end of the tunnel is near. With new cost-efficient equipment on the horizon, this will undoubtedly enhance our operation and efficiency. Thank you for your unwavering support so far, and I have definitely been made aware of people's kind words and the difference. I have heard many stories about the past challenges before our arrival and have seen the transformation firsthand. We are moving forward with full steam, determined to leave expensive mistakes behind and create a brighter and more efficient future. I just want to, let me see, kind of my coworkers in here so far. Jody, Andrea, Janice, George, and Chief Alfred. I really appreciate your guys' help and, the knowledge that you guys have, passed on, and the insight you've given us, and also helping us along with, getting things done over there. So I just wanted to say thank you to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.
Good job.
Any questions?
All right, questions?
Any questions at all, or?
Yeah, I'm sure we have questions.
Just ready to go. I see you. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. We got questions?
Clarifying questions.
I'm good. Good job on the duckweed. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that looks great.
Thank you.
You had
Um,
talked about, you mentioned a proposal that you're putting together for the things that you outlined here that you need. Will we be seeing that?
Yes,
Okay. And then do you have a time frame on that?
it's completed.
Okay,
So I'll send it over to George, or actually Justin was gonna bring it in to George.
okay, great.
And it's completed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilman Rhodes?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Sorry if I motor mouth here. Ready in public? Okay.
You're fine?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Presentation, get public comment. Pardon me?
Yeah.
Okay, next, we have number 2, presentation on status of grants. Debbie Mackey, Grant Coordinator.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. I've been asked to give you a status update on our current grants and how we're moving forward on future grants. Couple updates from the last one. I did attend a fundamentals of grant management class through FEMA. I did pass. It was a little bit over a month long and but was a couple hours a day. But it's basically about the laws and everything that govern grant and the grant processes and making sure that we're compliant with 24 CFR. Okay, so last week we did have a staff meeting. And I thought I would start off with the development of a procedural process. And this will help us move forward as far as your questions and then having me give reports so that we follow somewhat of a format. So in the initiation of the grant process, an overview of the city infrastructure, we are doing that right now, looking at certain things within our city that need upgrades. And tonight was a good example of things that we can be working forward on grants for. The importance of the infrastructure improvement and the overview of the grant seeking process. So we're doing a needs assessment, evaluating the current city infrastructure, identifying the weaknesses and areas of improvement, assess the impact on public safety and quality of life, community engagement. This is something that's really important in seeking grants. It's something that's always asked for. How did you engage the community? That's not just being directed from the administration and what we think might be, they want that community involvement. So we gather feedback from the residents, identify priority areas for improvement. So we will be moving forward that on in the not so distant future on some of the grants that we're currently working on. Grant identification, research available grants, that is an ongoing process, and I appreciate those who send me emails and things like that. I do pay attention to those, review all that sent to me to see if we can kind of wiggle our way into some of them. Some of them are very obvious. It's like, yes, we can apply for this. Others, you have to do kind of peel back the layers and see, is there any way that we can kind of roundabout get a percentage of this grant? So we look at federal grants, state grants, private foundations, California Endowment is one. Evaluate eligibility criteria, I touched on that. Then the grant proposal development. Project description, defining the infrastructure improvement projects, highlight anticipated impact on the community. Budgeting timeline, I'm going to kind of, this could get very long and I want to kind of, I don't want to take a lot of your time tonight. I can always come back and give you a really long in-depth program. This is something that a lot of data, I love data. And I'd like to meet your needs as far as anything that you want. Okay, developing partnerships, the grant application kind of speaks for itself. We just have to follow all the guidelines, getting letters of support in there, gathering all the documentation, the implementation plan, detail of the project and the project management, evaluation and reporting, establish metrics for success and regular reporting, and sustainability plan. That's also another very important process in the grant. They want to see that if they're going to give these funds, that that you can sustain it, that you do have a way that that you are looking towards to be able to continue to maintain it or upgrade it. Conclusion, just supporting documents, maps, architectural renderings, letter support, things like that. Okay. So now that kind of goes into my status update. Let me grab my correct paperwork here. Okay. So, and that was last week at staff development, at our staff meeting that we thought that I had requested. I didn't know if we had one. There's not a lot of information prior to, there's no format set up, so I didn't walk into a situation where we had a structure. And Andrea has been extremely helpful as far as sending me files. She finds things and sends them over all the time. So we're still accumulating a lot of files and getting them all in different categories so that we can create data. Okay, so update on home CDBG. Okay, so we have a total of 16 loans for 14 homes. As of the 2023 June ledger that will be updated again this month, we had $1,346,000 and $617.06 according to the ledger of loans that we have out. Of those loans, one was paid since I last spoke of right around $170,000. The program income balance, and that is the money that we get off of people paying back their loans plus the interest if they are being charged interest. The total of it is $1,193,625. Of that, the home is about $680,000, and the CDBG self-help housing and low-income housing grant total is a little over $500,000. Those are separate. Home can only be used for home, which is owner-occupied rehabilitation or first-time home buyer. The CDBG, we have a little bit more leeway, and we're looking at leveraging those funds on future projects. And we did talk about that briefly in staff. And as these programs get up and running, we will be going further into that. So the letters to be sent out this month, this is something we wanted to hold off of until I met with council. It's the annual occupancy verification requirements and for property tax and insurance. Now, this is an annual requirement that was supposed to be being done. So we expect that some people are going to be surprised by getting this. And so you might get questions, you might hear some stuff about it, but this is a requirement of the loans. I do have those letters and the, if council is interested in them, but it is, it's just it'll be on city letterhead, and it's titled the Annual Occupancy and Verification Requirements, the City of Ione Home CDBG Program. In it, there's going to be two pieces of paperwork that they do have to sign and confirm for proof of occupancy, statement of resident use, declaration of non-resident title holders, and then include property tax verification and insurance verification. So those are the things that they will be required to bring in, and we give them about a month's time to get that information in. Okay. Let's see. Okay, the home, as far as implementation of these programs, which would be the home program mainly for the owner-occupied rehabilitation, and the second part of that is the first-time home buyer. So back in February, I attended a webinar on this, and I believe I touched on it briefly during our meeting. In April, they finally got us the packet that we had to compile in order to get all the paperwork done. The paperwork is extensive when you have to go through all of it, anything from environmental and checklists and basic, you have to have all the information regarding what your program income limits are and all that. So all that's been done. We're almost there. Right now, we're just working on the NEPA portion, and then I'm waiting on the final approval for the overall program, and that's the program design and process. They did change, and we had it together, but then they changed the income in May. So we had to update all those income limits on that program. For first-time home buyer, I attended that webinar a couple weeks ago, and because it seems like it takes them 2 months to get all the paperwork together, we're looking for probably 2 more months before we can even start on the first-time home buyer program. But we'll be starting the owner-occupied rehabilitation program, hopefully within the next 2 months, based on the state's approval of our process. Okay, so, and then after that, we're working on the CDBG, self-help and low-income housing program income. We're going to need to have a staff meeting, but we want to get the home program up and running so that we can leverage those funds if possible, so that we can, with CDBG, it mainly focuses on our low to moderate income. So if we have areas where we're utilizing those home funds that need some infrastructure improvement, we can use those CDBG funds there. So we want to make sure that we maximize the potential for all of our program income. Okay, so that's it on that. I have a lot of supporting documents. Should you guys, council want any? Lots of paperwork. Okay, so the good news. So not that that's not bad news, but that's good. So the SS4A, which is the Safe Streets for All program. I've been working on this. Again, Councilwoman Ratton sent me an inquiry as far as regarding this program. So I was researching it as far as where we're at on it, on the SS4A. And there's several steps that you have to do, and you have to have an action plan to do it. So I was working towards the action plan, which is the first and foremost thing that you have to do. Now, the city has applied for this twice before, back in, I believe, 2010. I did check with Weber Geo. They did do a lot of work on this program. They applied twice and they were not awarded any funds for it. So I was researching how we could improve, be more competitive with it. And in one of the webinars that I was attending, and this was just, was it 2 weeks ago, last week, that the webinar said, as we're going through the action plan and applying, they said, well, be sure and check and make sure that you're not a part of anybody else's action plan. Not ever thinking that we would be, we are, and it was awarded. So the county back in 2023 applied for an action plan countywide. And a lot of times in dealing with county maps, I've looked at applying for grants before. Usually when a county or a state applies for something, there's these little gray areas on the map, and that's the city of Ione, city of Jackson, Cedar Creek, Amador. So because they're separate from the county. Well, what the county did was smart. So how you work grants is that you want more data. So they used our data to be competitive with this grant. So I couldn't find anything on it. And so I enlisted the help of administration, and they were very helpful as far as trying to nail down, and of course went to ACCA and all. So long story short, I ended up with Karen I'm going to mess up her last name, Warburton. So she is the one who wrote the grant, and we did send a letter of support back in July 6th of 2023 to the Honorable Pete Buttigieg, who was the Secretary of the United States Department of Transportation. So that's why it wasn't really clear as far as in our documents of where this would even be, but they did develop a program called CARS, Keep Amador Roads Safe. So the only information I could find out online or any documents was there was a little blurb about it in November that they were awarded the grant on the Facebook page and the economic development portion for the county. So just one little thing, there's been nothing since. So anyway, so I called Karen, said, hey, we're really excited. We want to be a part of it. She said that we don't have to be a part of it if we don't want to. I'm like, no, we need to be a part of it. They got an $800,000 grant to make this happen. $200,000 of it is in kind, which just means that we just have to keep track of all the time we spend on it and doing it. So at staff meeting, we did talk about it. I was super excited. I talked their ears off about it. And we're going to work on it, and would like, any help that council would like to give. And then also we'll be enlisting, like I spoke before, community representation to get a good action plan for all the roads in our city. So it's very exciting. Okay, so that is that. I could go on about that for an hour, but I won't. So update to the LEAP program. So I was told, I was not at the last meeting. They did have a meeting, I think it was a couple months ago. I did get an email, sent an email from Jonathan that they are working on the LEAP, which is the local early action planning grant application. And so they are working on that. And that's basically for the, the cycle 5. I'm gonna butcher this one. So what is that? So I'm not as up on this one because I just I just wrote an amendment for this, so that we could kind of breathe life back into it to see if we can get, use the income $65,000 because it expires at the end of September. But it's a cycle 5, RHNA. And, Councilwoman Ratton, I'm not sure if this would apply to AB 2881. Is that something that you were working on, the Assembly bill, where it's the Social Housing Act?
Yeah, the new one that they're just
Okay.
proposing.
Yeah, so the new one they're proposing, I looked, on the California cities, I was told that this one was dead, but I don't know if it's gonna stay dead for long. I'm not sure. I'm not as up on it, but, this may help us in the early part too, if they do pass that this might, help us as far as, working with the, the low income, very low income housing. The amendment I did write, for it, this was specifically for the area behind the fire. I call it behind the firehouse station 2. I know it has a name, but I apologize. I don't know what it's referred to as, but I did write, the, 2 other places. What was it? Is it the Q Ranch? Was it the Q Ranch? There were 2 other areas. There's the Q Ranch. And
Ringer
then-
Ranch and Q Ranch.
Yeah, that, and then I also included Preston. So that was kind of a side thing, just because I thought the infrastructure is there for possible low-income housing. So that's it on our LEAP program. The COVID grant, I just was asked, I do not have a lot of background on this. I know Andrea and Jody have been working extensively on this. It's mainly I just developed, I think, a UEI policy, doing a lot of backtracking compliance procedures. We're almost done. I think the only thing that that I need right now to complete that to their satisfaction is just the deed from for City Hall. And that was as of today. I got an email just verifying that. So that grant should be done. Parks grants. Okay, there's a lot for parks. And these are all future grants. I'm going to be working with Selena when she's doing a lot of different things, and there are a lot of parks grants out there. I was working at direction. I was given to start working on Howard Park. And this is where we look at how to create the sustainable program. There's a lot of infrastructure needs that need to be done as we move forward. I started working on the softball fields, trying to see about getting grants for that. Here's an area where we can look at leveraging a lot of those funds because it is a city park. They are a 501c3. And then you have private interest groups who would like to, contribute to building a softball field. So we have all those grants that can be done, but looking at the map, there's going to be some things that need to be changed on it. I'm not sure if we should go with the 3-plex or a 4-plex, but we also have an entrance to Howard Park that goes over the railroad tracks. I don't think that that's feasible. So it was suggested that they go in through Wildflower. Well, after attending a meeting where people are parking on Wildflower, I don't think Wildflower wants people to come in. And then looking at the safe streets and roads for all, and looking at, even though they are roadways within, what is the long-term plan for the track at Howard Park? Do we want to continue to having parking on the interior? Or do we want to move that? So those are a few things that we're working on from kind of a balcony perspective, but we're going to be bringing it in into a narrow perspective as we move forward with this grant process. Okay, and I am attending, again, Councilwoman Ratton, thank you, keep me on my toes. The July 24th is a class for grant readiness for state and federal funding. So that is that. I do have a couple of other things to touch on, just to kind of recap a few things that we are looking at. For parks, there are lighting grants, there's bicycle and pedestrian programs, it's the AB. And there's a lot of we have a Union Pacific grant that also has available funding, and that's where it kind of goes back to that policy and procedure that we're working on to make sure that these funds are available. And if we can meet those specifications on what they're looking for to grant that money to, but without a foundation, it's hard to say, oh yeah, there's, between $5,000 and $30,000 here, but where do we want to put it? So we're going to start building those structures up as we move forward. Okay. And I believe, and the fire department, sorry, I do have, so the fire department is kind of how I structure. Every year we have multiple federal grants that we apply for every year. And then we also have several foundation grants we apply for every year. And I have those on a timeline. So the big goal is to have that for all departments to, and also stay on top of any legislation that will be granting funding for any special interests that happen to be coming up. And I know I have a lot of assistants and emails that will be coming my way if anybody catches, their eye on something like that. Okay, do you have any questions?
Thank you very much.
No,
Good job.
excellent. Excellent work.
Okay,
Thank
all right.
you.
Thank you.
Item 3, presentation on current city contracts.
Good evening, council. You had requested information on current contracts that we have within the city of Ione. So, Julie had actually started a spreadsheet, so I just worked from that. It was a great format, and very dense, lots of information, lots of researching. So I have it broke down in 2 pages, and if anybody from the audience, there's some printouts also there if you're interested in. And the first one is accounts payables contracts that require us to pay, and then the second is accounts receivables contracts that we get payment from. So basically, I've worked on this, and if you look at the very first column, it's fully executed in file where there's a check mark or not. Janice was very helpful because I had a lot of on the server had a lot of items that weren't signed, but she was able to do a lot of pass a lot of them on to me that were signed. So basically, it's listed as you got your vendor, what department affects, what the project is, the type of the agreement, if it was approved that by the city manager or the council approval date. I'm still researching a lot of this data just to fill in the blanks. The term of the contract, the status, and I only covered 23-24. So if something expired in the 22-23 year, I didn't include it. I just did the 23-24 so we can move forward, because I could spend forever going backwards. What the not to exceed amount is, what we've spent to date on the year, and then any notes. What was really interesting about this is, like, one of the simple ones was Caltrans. As soon as I pulled up the Caltrans one, I realized we've been paying the same rate since 1995. They did do a request. I found a letter that was a request in 2015 to upgrade. We have the same amount of hours, but you're able to upgrade your personnel cost and your equipment cost. And so Jody was kind enough, we found Caltrans list, so we sent a letter out to them requesting it again. We haven't heard back. So it's not big money, but it went from 6,000 to 14,000. So just little things like that. By going through this process, we've been finding lots of little things that we can improve on and get things on a schedule. So if you guys have any questions for me, I don't know all of these by heart. And this is an ongoing process. And if you know of anything that needs to be added or you don't see on here, let me know. And then I know you guys had also mentioned the developer agreements. I set those over separately because they're volume.
Huge.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
huge. So I didn't include all that data on here because it would take pages just for each section of those.
I know one item or area that when I met with George to talk about putting this together was, are these vendors, contractors in compliance with Ione's requirements of the business license, their insurance? Is their insurance up to date? Are they properly licensed for the job that they're performing? And I know that was one section that's not on here.
Okay, so I can add basically 3 columns, just like I did for the executed in file.
Or
I can just add
just
one for a business
Include it all
license.
in one, they're compliant, they have their insurance in place.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to research it 3 different times.
Well, yeah,
So it'll probably be just an X like this other site is, like
Yeah.
business license check. And then I can move to the next thing. Do they have their license check? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to make a note for everyone that's not, like, oh, they have a business license, but not a license. So if that'll work for you, I'll just add 3 columns.
yeah, just
That's
as long
just
as
the
they're
check mark.
properly licensed with
Okay.
whatever profession that they're,
So business license, the license they're in, and their insurance.
yeah, I mean.
I think those are our major categories in our contracts that we require.
Okay,
If there's something we've missed, you can, add that.
okay.
So I'm just trying to follow. I was, when I saw this, I was trying to put things together because I see we have several contracts that are not executed, but we've been paying the invoices.
No, that doesn't mean that they're not executed. It means that I physically haven't found the copy of the executed agreement.
That doesn't mean there is one either.
Right,
We
but
can't find
the
it.
majority, yeah, so like I said, this is an ongoing,
Yeah.
so we will be, reaching out to find like,
So until then, do we continue to pay these warrants?
it depends on like who you're talking about. So yes, and some of these are old, like the DTA is one of them you'll see on here.
Yeah, they're-
DTA, which is
they're
the one
very
that do
old,
the
yeah.
CFDs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we pay their admin fee. They're the ones who handle the bonds and the CFDs for us. We've been paying them for years. You know, the bond, the CFDs are like 2005-1, 2000, 2008 or 2009. So we've been paying them since then. It's just a matter of me finding the old data.
So I mean, you need some more time, obviously.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is something I've been working on. You'll notice even what I sent to you yesterday is different than what I printed out for you today.
No, it's nice to have.
And though I have been working on that right now, we're in the middle of tax roll, so that's our most important
Year end.
year end and
Yeah.
to get done. So this, when I grab a chance, I try to do this research. And Janice has been very helpful in finding the executed ones.
If we could highlight at some point those that are expiring within,
Sure.
3 to 6 months.
So oh, hang on. Little Leapers, they're new, aren't they?
They're brand new. They just
Yeah.
came in and rented Grover Park through our Park and Rec program, and Selena
That's right.
worked with them on their insurance. They originally wanted to go out to Howard Park, just in the picnic area, but between
Right.
sprinklers and all
Yeah.
that, they went and walked through
Yeah.
Grover Park and decided that was the better spot.
Yeah.
Great. Thank
Nothing
you.
else? You're welcome. So if there's
I'm looking
anything
forward to,
more of it.
Yeah.
So if
as
there's,
time allows.
yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to see added, just let me know. And I'll update, the more we add also, the smaller the type gets.
Yeah.
There's obviously some questions on the contracts specifically, but we can address those.
Yeah, and that would be something, I wasn't sure what you guys were looking for, so I just went for the
Yeah.
big overview.
Mhm.
And then if you want to drill down on certain contracts, I know you did have a question a couple of meetings ago, so I did drill down on one contract. You had asked about the building inspection regarding Wildan and our current building inspector, Mayor LaFane. You had asked if it was cheaper than the Wildan
Yeah, if they were
reduced
compared.
rate. Yeah, so what I did is I pulled the last invoice we received and converted it to the Wildan proposal, because it was never signed, but it was the proposal. And it came out higher, about $3,000 higher than the contract would have been. So,
Well,
that's
it
the
looks
only
like
one
we've
I've
had a
analyzed.
contract with them since May of 23.
yeah, so that's the only
I-
one
I wasn't aware of
Yeah.
that.
that's the only one I've analyzed to that degree,
Yeah.
just because of your question a couple meetings ago. That's
I
it.
think we're done.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Andrea.
Okay, now we'll open it up to public comment for any item that is not on the agenda.
Thank you. Gary Thomas, 125 Maple Street. You may have noticed there was a car show on Main Street Saturday, and there was about 60 cars down there. So thanks for approving the car show, whoever approves that or so forth. The IBCA sponsored it. It was successful, we think. So, and there was also a chili cook-off down there, right, Jack? So anyway, I would like to personally thank Michelle from My Own Feed and Ranch Supply. She was on the committee, and Lori from Monarch and so forth. Heading the committee would be Julie Ayers from the Bed Bug on Main. So anyway, we had the 60 cars on Main. Thanks to all the volunteers and so forth. I know we had a few snafus, but we've got those figured out and so forth for next year. John, Alfred, thank you for your support, and we look forward to working with you next year. I probably see a few of your volunteers here, so thank you for them as well. And I'm not gonna say any names, Stacy. But so we didn't do so well with Kenny on the fire department. We had a problem where we didn't realize that that was a fire lane going through there, so we had a pop-up in the way. And we'll hope to work with Kenny and so forth next year when we do that. So we had a lot of positive comments and we had a few negative comments, no doubt. But please make your comments known to the committee or something for next year, or whoever you would like to forward them to. We are looking forward to next year with a better and larger car show. And we believe that there's a lot of people had fun. We believe that we're able to showcase the city of Ione, the business community, and we'll see you guys next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary.
Andy Aguilera, 279 Spring Creek Drive. I've been going to meetings for over 50 years. County, city, Sutter Creek. And I never have in my whole life. I have once, but the attorney told him to go sit down or they would throw him out. I never have seen a city manager. I have never seen an attorney. I never have seen city councilman. I never have seen a mayor. I never have seen the police department. I never have seen any city employees in open session talk about an elected officer and a city paid officer. And I think that was the last meeting in May, if none of you were here. It was pretty bad. They were talking about one of our elected officers. They were naming her name and they were saying that somebody give her a deal when they went into the office. I think that's against the law. I haven't been able to get a hold of somebody that knows all that stuff. And I'm very surprised that somebody didn't tell the mayor to buckle it up. And I don't think it was legal. And if Janice wasn't such a nice person, I'm gonna say your name, Janice, and wasn't such a nice person, she could probably get an attorney and we would probably have another city Ione lawsuit. So, and I've known people come up here before and we've mentioned something about a few city employees and the attorney told us, oh, you can't do that. That's only in closed session. So I don't know why somebody can talk about a city elected officer and she gets paid, she's a city employee in open session. I mean, someday I'm gonna get an answer here before long. I've been trying to find an attorney to give me an answer. But I think it was against the law. And all I can say is I wish the mayor would step down and let the vice mayor take over. Because I think that was very, very, very terrible. I mean, the mayor was way out of hand. She was accusing Larry Road. She was accusing Stacy. She was just going on and on. And I don't think that was very professional at all. You're never supposed to do that. That's all in closed session, or you call them to come down here and you go in the room and have a talk with them. And if I would have been Larry, I think I would have got mad. And if I would have been Janice, I ain't gonna tell you what I would have did. Or Stacy. And so it'd probably be a good thing if the mayor would step down. So thank you for your time and I hope it never happens again. Goodbye.
Thank you, Andy.
I'm gonna talk about the consent calendar, about the warrants. I don't know if you're gonna talk about them or not, so I'd like to know, the solar is $10,800 we paid this month.
Talk about it.
We'll talk about it when we get to the consent calendar.
Huh?
It's on the agenda, so when we get to the consent
Well,
calendar,
consent calendar, it's under consent calendar. I don't know whether you're gonna bring it up or not. Somebody's gotta pull it, right?
I'll be happy to pull it for you.
yeah,
you gotta pull it, so.
Well,
I'll pull it.
they were
Yeah,
gonna be
so
pulled.
I'll pull
I'm
it.
just
We can
saying,
ask for public comment and then you can make your, then you can have
well,
your,
I
have your
don't know
say.
whether you're gonna pull it or not. so.
I am. I just told you I will pull it so that you
Okay.
can have a public comment.
Carlos Correa, resident Ione. I want to thank all of you, city manager, council, everybody here. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate you. The wastewater treatment, that was a great presentation. I believe Kenny Mackey was also a part of that. Thank you, Kenny. I'd also like to bring up my chief, who I work for. I've worked for several chiefs over the years. This man, you don't see him behind the scenes, what I see, because I work with him daily. He's brought us, police department, to the technology there where we need to be. I'm very proud of him. I'm very happy to work for this department. The new police department, I know we're all ecstatic about. He's working really diligently to get us there, and what he's brought to the table over the years, I've never seen in any other chief that I've worked for here. So I just want to say that, something positive.
Thank you.
Thank you. We agree, or I agree. Anyone on Zoom? No? Okay, we'll close public comment. Item H are for information items only. Moving on to the consent calendar.
I'd like to pull the warrants.
I would like to pull the warrants as well, and the minutes. So should we just move them to the regular agenda?
You can take action on them now in order, however you'd like to do it. If
Okay.
you want to do the minutes first or warrants first, up to you.
As for the minutes, minutes of May 7th. Second page, it's just a question under consent calendar. It says Mayor LaFane asked that the minutes of April 2nd, 2024 be pulled for discussion. And the result of that was April 2nd, 2024 minutes will be brought back for approval at the next meeting. Do you know if they were brought back? They were not brought back? Okay, thank you. And then this is again, just a clarifying question. Comments. Do you separate out public comments on an item, or is it just because there was a lot of back and forth going on? So, we had the city attorney commenting and then the public commenting. And so is it normally done that way where they're all put together, or is it separated out? Because public is usually at the end, right? Just a question.
Depends on, you're talking about each individual item when
Yeah,
Public
I've just, yeah, usually I see public comment down at the bottom. And,
it's usually after each item.
okay, okay. I think that was it. As far as for the minutes, you helped out clarify. That's all I needed. So the warrants, Vice Mayor Ratten.
I will, you have done some issues with it. I don't at this point, but I do want to get, give Larry an opportunity to make his public comment on them.
I just had some questions as well. So
Okay,
let me
go,
get to it.
why don't you go first and then we'll.
Um. I've probably figured out what that is for. The iWork software, is that an annual fee? $4,500 for the software program?
Yes.
And can anybody clarify what all of the drums were for? The $2,200 in drums, is that for chemicals?
What's it pay, what's the, what's?
Page 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Polymer and alum mixture, and
Okay.
just part of a different area of our process. We usually don't store.
Okay, so that's gonna fall under the wastewater budget. Last, for the train depot bathroom. Mark Lewis, $21,000. Did we put out an RFP for that? Or? No?
Not to my knowledge, it was under the past program, set up for that train part to sell,
Okay,
part of the volunteer program.
well, at 21,000, he's not a volunteer.
No, that was for the parts and the, plumbing.
Okay, wow.
It was part,
It was
things
a-
needed to put the,
correct,
okay.
Restart the program.
Okay, capital outlay building, okay. That's all I have on the warrants.
Larry, would you like to make your?
I have one more question, I'm sorry. Steve Mahoney, 2013 BMW. Payment,
That's gonna be the police motorcycle. That's the motor unit. It was servicing.
oh, the BMW bike,
Yeah, it's the motor is a BMW, so
just curious why we're,
I know it sounds nice having a BMW.
we had a city car that was a BMW.
This solar bill of $10,800, that's looking at $120,000 a year. How come you people aren't looking at methane gas? Stockton's run on, their whole sewer plants on methane gas for decades. And I work with generators, pulled two of them out of Peller Hill, and they don't run on methane, they run on diesel at a high altitude. And methane lasts longer. One of them had 42,000 hours on it, the other had 37,000 hours on it. You know, we could be running generators down there, methane gas, a heck of a lot cheaper than this. I mean, this is crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda.
We need to
Oh,
do
sorry.
this. I would like to clarify on the solar, we are paying 0.1265 per kilowatt, which is significantly less than anything else that we would be getting through PG&E. And we have a 25-year contract for that.
We just reviewed this, didn't
Yes,
we,
we
just
did.
recently?
But I
Because
just want to
it
clarify
was brought
because,
up, Larry.
and just so everybody knows, the tertiary plant has fired up in May and is in full swing, and that's where the power is being used.
And there's hardly any power in the winter time.
So it's not a 12-month bill. So I will make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So just to clarify for Janet, that was for the warrants. They took action on the minutes.
Okay, on to the regular agenda. Item number 1, Amador County Regional Transportation Plan, 2024 update and mitigated negative declaration.
I know it's exciting, right?
Very exciting and very long.
2 inches thick.
Sorry about that. I wanted to bring this regional transportation plan to the city council and its associated mitigated negative declaration because it's been significantly changed. The work program has significantly changed from previous years. So for a little background, the Amador County Transportation Commission, ACTC, acts as the regional transportation planning agency. And they are charged with providing the region with a regional transportation plan. That plan is intended to address regional goals. It identifies and presents future needs, deficiencies, constraints, analyzes potential solutions, estimates available funding, and proposes investments. In May, they issued a notice of intent to adopt and mitigate a negative declaration. That's a programmatic level review because this is a program, not an actual project. I don't see any issues, and that's not why I'm bringing it to you. It's very different from like what we saw with the school district and that environmental documentation. That's not why I'm bringing this. So the proposed RTP, it's supposed to be done on an 8-year cycle. The ACTC has chosen to do it on a 4-year cycle, which is very beneficial to us because that helps us with our housing element. Long explanation as to why housing and circulation fits together, but that's why they've done that. And the big difference in this regional transportation plan from previous years is instead of looking at larger capacity type improvements to put on their 20-year list, they've changed it to basically shovel-ready rehab and restoration type projects. So instead of working on the big bypass projects or new infrastructure, they're looking at projects that are ready to go, more maintenance oriented, might have some safety components to it, but the underlying theme here is that it's be shovel ready. So they've broken those different projects into 3 lists, and they have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 is the ones that are going to be done ideally within the next 20 years. Ione does not have any on that list.
We don't.
All of Ione's projects have been pushed to tier 3, which is no funding in the foreseeable future. So I wanted to bring this to the Planning Commission first and get some comments from the Planning Commission and then to the City Council, not to, again, address deficiencies because I don't see any in the mitigated negative declaration, but more to bring up the point that we need to take a look at how we are planning for future improvements in roads in the city of Ione. I think you've got a bypass project, the Iris project that was broken into components. I think it's time to dust that off, start looking at those different components and see if we can put it into phased chunks that are more easily tackled. Because at this point, the ACTC isn't going to go for anything that's going to require massive regional funding and take generations to build, which is what we're seeing with some of these other projects. Sutter Creek Bypass literally took generations to do. The Pine Grove project, decades. So any comments going through? The Planning Commission did have some comments on how Ione was presented in the RTP in terms of its population growth. Overall, the Department of Finance sees this area declining in growth. And despite our water capacity issues, we see that as a short-term problem, and that's not going to impact our overall population over the next 20 years. We still see us growing in 20 years. And the Planning Commission requested that I respond to the ACTC's population analysis in the RTP to better reflect what's happening in Ione. And I wanted to know if the council had any other comments or questions about the RTP.
How often can we get our projects on this list? Once annually, or is it every 5 years, every 8 years?
So they're looking to do every 4 years an update of the RTP.
Every 4.
They have
4
a
years we
regional
have to do that.
transportation
mitigation fee committee or the RTMF, that it looks at these projects and does, you know, an annual review basically on it. So that's the time to start, you know, start nagging. Start nagging so that you're in 4 years. Ideally, we'll have some projects to bring to the table. And the items that are on tier 2 and tier 3, it doesn't mean they can't get bumped to tier 1 if there's grant funds or if there's SHOP money that comes from Caltrans or some other money falls from the sky. It can get bumped, but we need staff at those technical advisory committee meetings. You need staff attending RTMF meetings to make sure that we are getting the information in front of the ACTC.
Is the engineer still going to those meetings? Because they used to go to those meetings. So the engineer used to go.
I've been going for the tax for 20 some odd years, and Iona's had representation off and on. It's been spotty. So I attend the tax that I can attend when I don't have any other conflicts. And I will continue to do that for the city of Ione.
Right, because we're currently on the off cycle on ACTC.
You are currently on the
I
off
was
cycle.
The last one on there and we have to get something on tier 1 and we can get it on the, you know, as quickly as a year. But we just, you know,
we have
nobody
to-
wants to talk about the bypass, right? So it gets kicked down the road and then what we're doing is we're sending all of our money from all of our housing up to ACTC and they're spending it in Pine
Elsewhere.
Grove.
Yeah.
You know, that's the big one now, the $80 million one, or Jackson or whoever's got a project ready. And we just got to get a project, you know, so that we
That's
can
it. So that,
get some of the money back.
but it cannot, with this current work plan and the way they've set the objectives in this RTP and the way it's moving in the future is it can't be that big giant project. It just can't. So we need to pivot and come up with some projects that are manageable, that will incrementally make a difference for the circulation system.
Well, that shouldn't be a problem, given our infrastructure.
So after the $10 million roundabout, they decided to downsize the projects, right? I mean, that's what they've done.
Most of this is coming from.
And that was in Plymouth.
Yeah, most of this is coming from a lack of funds to pay for maintenance. And it's creatively, because you cannot technically use impact fees from development. Those have to go towards new capacity. They can't go from road maintenance. So this is a kind of a way to address the, you know, our aging infrastructure that we're all across California we're seeing.
Thank you.
So you're looking for something from us tonight, or is this just?
I have the
kind of a
comments
heads
from the
up?
planning commission about population, which I think are valid, and I think that we should be acknowledged for, you know, that
Yeah,
should
we're
be
not declining in
corrected.
growth.
No.
We're not, no, that's happening. So, but if there's any other comments, I'm happy to take that back to the ACTC as well.
Well, I wish I had a project you could take back to them, but unfortunately we don't.
Not at the moment.
So
no.
in Debbie's presentation on the grant fundings, she talked about the LEAP, the local early action planning grant for 65,000. Some of that money is going towards looking at, you know, projects. What are projects that we need to do? What are plans and programs that need to be in place when development picks back up again? How do we make sure that we're getting everything that we need? And I think that's a good use for those funds.
Agreed.
Questions? No? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll open it up to public comment.
I thought you would.
You're a mind reader.
Gary Thomas, 125 Maple Street again. Yeah, there's really two big issues when you're talking about the city of Bayonne. I made the same comments at the last planning commission meeting. It's bringing money in here and it's transportation issues. You don't have to be too bright to see that we have a level of service. I'd say F. I'm not going to tell you what that stands for. In my mind, you can figure it out. But it's really bad around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the prison breaks and everything else, CDF, everything. And we got to get the large trucks out of town. The original, not the original bypass, sorry, Larry, but a bypass will, the bypass as envisioned in 1987 went to the Ione Industrial Park. And I believe that if the bypass was targeted somewhere back around that area, that we could take advantage and get the industrial park open and everything else. People were worried about the cost of money, but I don't believe anybody ever factored in the fact that when you were opening up some of that land, that those people would have been responsible for some of those segments of highway out there. So I think we need to form a coalition and talk to the different groups, factions and so forth, say the city of Ione with the board of supervisors, some of our senators and everything else, and see about getting the bypass or something going again. Because we have Mule Creek State Prison, they opened up Mule Creek State Prison too. There's CDF out there, they want to expand and expand. Their responsibility doesn't stop at those gates. They have people that are in our community that take advantage. We have to get fire, police services, ambulances and everything else through here. And it's very important that we get a bypass and get the large trucks out of here and get the people that want to go to Ione, get them down here and through Ione. So that's just my thoughts. We need to get a coalition going, talk to your senators or something everywhere. They're responsible for flooding Ione and doing nothing with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
And we've been through this before, but there's no way I work for the state and there's no way we're gonna be able to afford like a viaduct or aqueduct. There's just no way, just a mile floodplain, so you ain't gonna make it, so the state's gonna ever take it over. And the other thing about, there were talks come up planning commission about the school. And this council, a long time ago, when the prison, when they first started the first prison, I fought the second prison. I got the tally from the state of California, and it was 4,000 Shakely Lane and 124 in Preston. It was 4,000 cars a day. After the prison got in, there was 8,000 cars a day. Vehicles, including trucks. And not only that, the weight increased and everything, but we've asked them, because of the school, they could change their hours 1 hour the other way when they bring the workers in, and they wouldn't do it. And that would help the school for that congestion over there. And I can't believe they're supposed to be good neighbors, and they're good neighbors, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Any more public comment on the Amador County Regional Transfer? Public, social media? I mean. You got it. Go ahead.
That's you. Better hand raising.
Then her mic is muted.
Council, this is Sue from Ione. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm wondering, would it be beneficial if we put together an action committee to assist with the process of getting the desires of Ione documented and to help work through the process of this transportation dilemma that we seem to be in?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
We can,
I would love to volunteer for that.
okay. We can bring it up at the end under future agenda items.
Thank you.
And talk about it amongst council and decide then. Okay? So
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. That's it. Okay, on to item number 2, adopt resolution number 2024-13, Senate Bill SB 1, road maintenance project for fiscal year 2024-2025. That Jonathan, who's doing the, oh, Jody. Okay.
Good evening. I had presented this at the last council meeting and I come back to you with additional information. This is for SB 1. It's a road maintenance and rehabilitation account. It's money that we receive from the state. But in order to receive it, we need to provide a resolution with a list of projects stated in that resolution and or attached. And they have very strict criteria of what needs to be in the resolution. And when I brought it last meeting, it was asked that I come back after having our city engineer review it, which they did, and they had no comments and didn't have anything to add. And then also it was asked that I bring back some prior year revenues from this program and from the highway user tax, which I did. I put it in the staff report. And then I just listed on this report, since I was digging in there and had to go through all the different reports we did over the last 8 years, what projects we did get completed using the RMRA funds, and which projects we submitted that are considered carry over, which is a very standard thing that they see that, because a lot of these projects for a lot of smaller cities especially have a lot less money given to them than we do. And even with us, I think for this year, we're getting an estimated $226, 492 cents. And there's not too many of a roads you can build for that, or maintenance or anything. So they do see that some cities do need to bring projects back year after year, build up that pot of money, and then do the project. So what I did is, like I said, I just kind of gave you a little bit more information. I showed what we've received, and then what projects were done, and then the projects that we have that carried over. My recommendation would be that we stick to something that we've already did, and that we can start pooling and maybe actually get a project done. But that is at the discretion of the council, and of course, public input is a part of the process too. But it is something we need to decide tonight, because this has to be submitted to them, a signed resolution by July 1st, unless we want to do a special meeting. I think we can wrap this up. I did give a list. This is the list that I sent to our city engineers. That was attached to this. This is a report that was completed a few years ago of all the lists, or all the roads that were identified at that time, what the estimated cost would be. So if you wanted to add something else, besides what we've done in the past, we could definitely do that. Another, as you can see from looking at what we've done in prior years, is they just list a whole bunch of stuff. And then that way, if you guys see a need to fix something, we can use those funds because it's listed there. We don't have to do every project that we list together. So if we say, like we did one year, West Marlette Street between Sacramento and Dave Brewer Road, but we also say, and Fairway Drive between Castle, Foothill Boulevard, Raymond Circle, all those things. You don't have to do them all. You could pick out the ones you do, let them know when I'll let them know what got completed, how much it cost. as a part of the annual reporting. I did make a couple little notes, as of 2023-24, the SB one funds, we've received 939,632. I didn't put a total on that. Little table I did for the highways user tax, we've gotten over $1,192,000. So total, just in the years listed here, it's been over $2 million that we've received. And currently we have about 1.3, a little over 1.3 million. So we do have some money if we did really want to get a project done this year. Of course, assuming what project we pick and what the costs are now. So, do you have any questions?
So you've got your recommendation here, and I see on the resolution, you've got the streets identified.
I highlighted what was done last year, and that's why I highlighted it, because if we decide to do something different, which is once again at your discretion, I can just update those highlighted areas, but it's a little bit for me and for you, just so I make sure I highlight the right stuff. And then go back in and just make sure, because they want to just know how long, if we do a project.
Did West Marlette get finished?
It never even got started.
Okay, so.
Yeah. So, and it does include if we need to do some underground, I do believe that that can be part of that process, that we can use monies. They don't expect us to tear up a road and then have to, fix it and then tear it up to do something underneath. So
So you want an answer from this council on which one to start on tonight?
yes, which ones you would like me to list
Yeah, yeah.
in this resolution and submit to the state?
So
Yes.
does this list add up to the 1.4 million?
Oh, no, this is.
It's way higher. I didn't add it up.
Yeah, no, it's way more.
Okay.
That list is all inclusive.
That's
So-
all of the project.
All
Yeah.
inclusive, so I would recommend that you include all of those projects, because then in the future, you can pick and choose from any one of those as you see fit.
Any clarifying questions for Jody?
I would just say do the same as we did before, but I would roll it over again until we get enough money to do West Marlette, because that is the worst one and the sewer lines are broke under it. And I don't know what it's gonna be. It's probably gonna be $2 or $3 million, but I
Okay,
recommend.
we're on clarifying questions, then we can come back after we take public comment and have that discussion on what we're gonna do. So if, Jack, do you have any clarifying questions? No, all right. Thank you, Jody. So we'll open it up to public comment.
Like I said before, I sure wish you'd use the COVID money to fix West Marlette. It's the worst road in the whole thing, and it's gonna collapse one day and you're gonna have an emergency. And then what are you gonna do? Have a road closed down? Fire trucks won't be able to go through it. All your emergency vehicles won't go through it. It could cost somebody's life. Just like to let you know that. You ought to get the dang road fixed.
Thank you, Larry. Any more public comment on SB one? No, all right. Hey, discussion, council discussion.
I just think that I think we have $1.4 million, so let's spend, I don't know if West Marlette's that urgent, but if the engineer says it is, then it is. So let's spend 600,000 on West Marlette. Looks like you can do 2 or 3 projects. And then the other 600,000 on some of the other streets, which I think the best thing to do, and the engineer can give us a guidance here, is the lower this number, the PCI number, the worse shape it's in. That's right. So maybe before they get really bad and really expensive to fix, once they get to a certain level, then they're really expensive to fix. So I would just, whatever the number is, that's like 70 or whatever, that's a good investment number. And I'm just guessing, so you can say, no, it's 60 or whatever. But I'd do half of West Marlette and then a couple of other items on this list and start doing it this year. If we get more money next year, we can do some other projects or the rest of West Marlette, but I don't think we should wait anymore because you're gonna, that section of road, we've waited 4 years now. We need to just get a section of it done.
Plus it gets more expensive every year.
I don't even think we can do anything on this list because
Well,
have you seen, I don't know anywhere where you can get anything done for $2,000 anymore.
Potholes filled.
This pavement these numbers, I believe, are from the 2015 pavement report, which is ridiculously out of date.
Mr. Mitchell, do you want to add anything to this or you've already looked at all of this?
Honorable Mayor, member of City Council, I have reviewed it, and the item before you tonight is actually to adopt this menu of options, if you will. So it gives us the most flexibility to make decisions as we move forward. So I would recommend that we adopt as presented, and it gives us the plan option where then we can come back with engineers' estimates for a variety of priority roads, including West Marlette. And that, at that point, council can weigh in and say, okay, we'd like to move forward with that. Or we, if we think the engineer's estimate comes to a reasonable number. In other words, after this, the next action would be, we prepare an engineer's estimate for the priority roads. If that engineer's estimate aligns with the funds available, we can come back. That would be a good meeting to have at that point and say, look, we think that we can make these improvements to West Marlette, or we think that we cannot. And then we can make recommendations accordingly. So the item before you tonight gives us the flexibility to make those informed decisions later with the funds available. Hope that answers the question.
Yep, sounds good.
So just so I'm clear, we're going to include everything on this list. Everything on this list?
That is staff recommendation.
Okay, perfect.
A blanket.
Yeah.
Do a blanket.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Stacy, have any?
anybody, I think we discussed, no? Okay. So we look here.
We've had public comment, right? Yeah,
I'm sorry, what?
we have had public comment, haven't we? Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So
So let me find the resolution.
right here.
Okay, if someone could start a motion.
I'd make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-13, Senate Bill 1 SB 1 Road Maintenance Project for fiscal year 2024-2025.
I'll second that.
Let that read to include the roads on the project list, attachment J2B.
Agreed.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.
I see we have another one coming right behind it, though.
Yes, I do.
Item number 3, adopt resolution number 2024-15, approving the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Correct. I should also mention, and this might be an Andy question, is there's also a resolution part of that packet that is for the appropriation limits, and although it wasn't spelled out on the
We need a two-part
agenda,
resolution.
if I should bring the appropriation limits back, that reso at a future or meeting.
Yeah, given that it's not on the agenda and we only have the budget here, we have until July 15th on the appropriations limit, so we should be in good time.
So let's make sure we identify that for
The next
another
one, yeah.
agenda. We don't miss it.
Good evening again. All this has been shown to you guys so many times. I did do another presentation. We're at the end. We're at the adoption of the thing. The 2024-25 operation budget. And some of these slides are kind of the same. The salary schedule has not changed since the last meeting. But this is just kind of a nice little overview. There were a couple few changes between the count and management analysis. We had a count clerk and maintenance workers beginning step added slow raise just to get to that $20 an hour minimum. We added a police records clerk position as a non-sworn, and then two actually that's in personnel, but two sworn positions. And then I did want to mention that although we are in well, not we, the city is in negotiation with the Ione Police Officers Association that has not been concluded. And since the budget's before you today, if this gets approved, we will have to bring that back as an amendment, which is part of the process of any good budget. And as we mentioned before, there is no cost of living increase for the majority of the salary schedule. We're just moving forwards with what we had from the prior year. And then I did a nice little overview of each of the departments, kind of broke it down by the monthly rate and then kind of the total cost that it's costing the city as broken down. And obviously the elected officials, there's not too many variables in there, but if we go into the admin and the building rec, we have the section 125, workers' comp, employer portion of CalPERS that really adds into the cost of employees. So I just want to make sure that's identified. It's not just salaries that cost the city money. It's all the extras, which can really raise the total cost of an employee. And then there's a third one that shows our police, fire, and public works. And this is all with the added positions, the changes in positions, the little, I should call them little, but the beginning step increases. This is all built into these personnel budgets. Thank you. And then I made a few changes from last time. Once I started putting these into a comprehensive look to see our beginning balance, revenues, expenses, and then our funding and balance, I changed the police department from, I had them, I think at 60-40, 60 general fund and 40 restricted. But with what we're coming in for the restricted PD, it was going to make that fund negative. So I changed it to 70-30. So that's different since the last time I presented this. And then a little bit too with the admin, I kind of looked it through a little bit different and I changed the 5% for swimming pool, gas tax and tertiary. I had 15% for tertiary, but I just don't feel like our time is there. The 15 for wastewater is because we do all the sewer billing and we're working on that rate study. So I kind of changed that around a little bit too. And then this is new. I did a revenue by funds now that we have it all laid out and have the allocations. So if you take the allocations of like we were just talking police, that there's 70 general and 30 restricted, this is how it plays out as far as, well, the revenue is not so much. This is just revenue's easy. But when we get to the expenses, they just show how those allocations are going to play out. But the revenues have pretty stagnant since last council meeting when I presented this. And this is just a slide, just kind of showing all the funds we're going to receive throughout the city and what funds are going into. Next slide. This is the one I was talking about. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So like the general fund is the percent of the allocations for each of the departments. So I'm going to use, obviously, I'll use admin for 50% general fund. It's just 50% of the cost of the admin department is hitting general fund. And then the other 5%, 15, 25 is hitting the other funds, wastewater treatment plant, tertiary. And there is a nice slide that kind of shows them all, but this kind of gives you just the big overview. And then this is our citywide expenses by department. Once again, just to kind of, I like charts. Sometimes that gives the information a little bit clearer than just a bunch of numbers. And then these are our major funds. This is what I was talking about before. So I predict what I think our beginning fund balance is gonna be July 1st, which is pretty easy because it's 2 weeks away. So I took the biggest of our funds, using that information I just showed you, I did our total revenue, our total expenses. If you add in the general fund, what our ending balances will be June of 2025, assuming our budget is 100% accurate, as it should be. But changes can be made. And then the bottom one I added, because that's kind of important too. It shows revenue over expenses, because like I just mentioned, a couple funds, tertiary is one of them, we have less revenue than expenses at this time. And I do want to bring those out because those are areas we're going to have to work on. Obviously, tertiary, that's not part of the rate increase, but negotiations with the other partners in that, CFD police and CFD fire. Like I said, I set those percentages a little higher to help bring down that beginning balance and to use that instead of the general fund. But once again, that's one of those things we vote for every year. Do we want to do 2%, 3%, 4% with the CFDs? This is where it gets critical because the more revenue we have, the more percentage we can use using CFD money, and we're not using general fund money, which isn't restricted. And this is kind of how we allocate, or how I set up the allocations. So the original was the personnel, and I had those somewhat different because like on city council, I did do a little bit of the personnel expenses to the wastewater treatment plant because I think that rate study is going to come before you and just to have some of your time being spent there. But as far as operational expenses, paper, training, that kind of stuff, I think it's 100% general fund. Same with most of the other things. Most of them follow personnel, but every now and then Public Works is a very good one. This year we separated out the wastewater treatment plant and the tertiary. And we also did a little bit more diving into the parks and the water spent there. So I was able to pull some of that out and then allocate the operational separate than the Public Works. And I mentioned this last meeting, but then going forwards, we're going to try to track that stuff a lot more closer, working with the people in those departments to give better notes about what was used where. So when it says Public Works, if it's obviously for the park, a lot of times I'll write park, but if it's more specific, then we can zero in on those. I think as we go forwards every year, it's going to get a little bit easier to figure out these allocations. And these are revenue and expenses by major funds, not taking into account our beginning balances. So as you can see, we have quite a few, luckily, that are revenue that exceeds expenses, but we do have a couple tertiary CFD police and CFD fire that are revenue. It's just not where our expenses are going to be this year. But once again, that's something I kind of built into that to help with the beginning balance that we have that's been kind of carried forward for those years that it wasn't being used. So to kind of put it in range with where it should be. And then going forward next year, we might have to start this earlier just so we can really have those numbers before we start voting on CFD increases or not and how we're going to structure that. I've already brought this up, but there's a sewer rate study that was started last November. Where obviously, as Kathy and Justin were talking, I got to say, the first thing I wrote down is, oh, I hope they have numbers for all that stuff so we can send that information, have our engineer look at it and send that off to the rate study consultants so they can build that into our rate study, especially for any kind of capital stuff, but even major repairs we're going to need to know about so we can make sure that we can afford that, even if it's 2-3 years out. Most rate studies are for 5. So we want to have that information as much as we can get. It's just going to help build that rate so it's accurate and it's fair to the ratepayers. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? I did give out packets and there's some out over there if anyone's interested with each department. There's also the revenue for each fund, the salary schedule, and on the departments, I did the allocations. I did the math. It shows the 80-20, what the math would look like. So you guys can have all that. I'm sorry I wasn't able to provide it in the packet, but a little part of me was, I was hoping to have this in a really pretty format because, we are paying a consultant that works with our Cassell company, and they can take all this information when it's in our system and they can make it into a budget book. So that's really next step, but I do think we can move forwards, and if you guys agree to adopt this with the numbers, and then next month, give me some time to get that budget book presented to you guys just to showcase it a little bit. And then we could put that up on the website, and I think it'd be easier to read for the common person instead of trying to figure out what a 20% allocation and what does WWTP stand for. And some of them I just have codes in there. So I just think it'd just make it that little bit cleaner and more easy to understand. And like I said, we'll talk about the appropriation limits at the next meeting.
Okay. Any clarifying questions from council?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, we'll open it up to public comment.
I'm not commenting. I just have a question because I'm not an expert on it by any means. But the CDF, you know, the assessment that all the houses, the new houses pay.
CFD.
CDs.
You were
I'm sorry, what did you say?
CFD.
Yes, CFD. I thought I heard her say about increases, but it can only, the way I understood it, it could only increase so much a year. Okay, so you can't go and decide that you're gonna increase that. Okay,
Well,
good.
just-
Thank you.
But we can decide not to.
There's a way, yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Someone online? Okay.
Go ahead, Sue.
Yes, good evening. Quick question, Jody, are we by chance scheduled to have an audit done again? I appreciate all your work you did, but I just believe we haven't seen an audit for quite a while.
Well, we can answer that, Jody.
Okay, sorry.
It is in the
Thanks.
works. Unfortunately, we're working on the 2020-21. This has taken a lot of my time, so I haven't had too much, but I have had an accountant that works for the city part-time working on some of these items. I recently asked for the accountant or our auditors to give me a list of what's left. So, and I asked him for priority, and his answer was everything's a priority. So yeah, so we're working on it. I really believe that that should be coming in the next couple months, and then we really need to start doing 2 a year to get caught up.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
Thank you so much.
Any other public comment on this item? No? Okay, we'll close public comment. Council discussion on item number 3.
No, just thank you for your hard work there, staff.
Presented this beautifully, and it's evolved over time, and it's
And it's
appreciated.
before June 30th.
And it's before June 30th.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, somebody like to make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 budget?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-15, approving the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding portable camera trailer lease.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item came up last meeting. Actually, the item didn't, but it was prompted from some discussion from last meeting with vandalism at Howard Park, and I'm sure I can get Chief Mackey to come up and kind of speak to that. So the city manager asked me to look at options. This option is actually one I had looked at about a year ago. And I looked at several different companies that offer these trailers. I'm sure you guys everybody in here has probably seen these trailers at shopping centers during the holidays. They are mobile trailers. This particular trailer that you have the information on, it's actually more purpose-built for law enforcement. And this is this action is looking at leasing it for a year. That way we can see what kind of impact it actually has. The nice thing about this trailer, it's the way it's configured, it's going to have 3 cameras on it. It's mobile, it's solar, it's got the wireless internet on it. So I can literally attach it to a vehicle, drop it anywhere in the city. And with the 3 cameras, I got 360 view around the trailer. The trailer also has a wonderful system. So if it's tampered with, it automatically notifies us, and we go out there to take care of it.
Vandalized.
Yeah, no, that's what we don't want. The nice thing is though, this trailer, doing the lease on it, because we did, when I originally looked at this trailer, I looked at purchase, what it would cost to purchase. It's considerably more money. And doing a lease would be, staff is recommending that at this point to see, hey, we can show you the value of this over the next year. Not only is this going to be good for the park to help with catching these vandals, these cameras are, first of all, they're court ready cameras. Basically, they're designed and they are made to be able to identify people, including at night. It's got AI tracking, so if it sees something moving at night, it will follow it during the day too. It literally will follow that subject. Their pan, tilt, zoom, so they'll move around and follow somebody if it's detecting suspicious behavior, like going into a bathroom for a long period of time or something like that. So, and that's all programmable. Nice thing about the lease, also, we don't have to worry about maintaining it. It's maintained by the company, which is a big cost savings for the city. So the other big thing is, and this is one of the reasons I was originally looking at this, is this camera, this platform would be excellent to use at like homecoming. Great venue for it, homecoming. Say we have a big public works project and they have a bunch of expensive equipment out somewhere, we can drop the camera there. So it's really something we can deploy anywhere in the city, wherever we have issues. So the fiscal impact of this project, it's $1,500 a month. There is a $750 delivery charge, and there's a $750 pickup charge. So if we do it just 1 year, they charge us $750, come pick it up. But again, they take care of all the maintenance on it and all the training. It's also cloud-based, so all the officers will be able to have access, get to it from their phones. They got an app, use it from the phone, use it from a computer in the office. And again, it's designed for the digital evidence platform, so we can actually make arrests and use it for evidence. So I'll open it up for any questions.
I'm just waiting to hear you say, check the CCTV tape.
The beautiful thing, it's not a tape.
You know what I meant. Check CCTV. Council clarifying questions? for
How long,
John?
how long of a lease are you looking at? 1 year, 3 years?
1
5
year.
years? Just 1 year?
Just 1 year.
Is it cheaper if you sign a longer lease?
That it was the same price if we did a longer lease. This company pushes more towards buying or selling the system full out. In fact, when I recontacted him when this came up, he's like, "Oh, you want to look at the lease?" I go, "Yeah, send me the information for the lease so I can get it to council."
How much was the purchase price?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was somewhere in the $80,000 range.
But that's only 4 years of leasing it.
Does it include repairs if it is vandalized, or is that covered?
Yes.
Do we have to have insurance on it?
It covers everything.
Every-
Yeah. That was one of the big selling points on it, is that anything that happens to it, they'll come out and take care of it. The only time there's a charge, if you look at the paperwork, is if we ask, and they'll do it within 24 hours. So if I call them, say, "Hey, something's wrong with this," they'll be out within 24 hours. Now, if we want it sooner, there is a I believe it was a $350 charge to have them come out faster. But other than that, they covered all. It's all part of the lease.
was it discussed at all about a lease to own? So,
That is something that I can reopen and talk to them about. Again, I kind of rushed to get this to you at this meeting because of the issue at Howard Park. It's been an issue. In fact, I'd like Chief Mackey to actually come up and kind of explain that a little more so you understand what's prompting this in the first place.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Public Works Department, on an average on a Monday morning spends about 2 to 3 hours just trying to repair the bathrooms, broken sprinkler heads, just about anything that can get graffiti gets graffitied. And it just amazes me how many people are out there, but they don't see anything. And then more guys show up on Monday morning and it's vandalized. The women's bathroom at the skate park literally gets torn completely apart, and we had to go in there, and the fire department has some welders. And we had them build, excuse me, build steel dividers versus the old wood ones or the old traditional ones. Since then, we've had no vandalism in that side. So they moved down to the rodeo grounds and now they're doing the bathrooms down there. So it's just a continuous move around of the park. A lot of this started when the fence got torn down on the east side of the track. We need to reclose the park and make it safe and secure at nighttime. That fence needs to go back up, and this is a fantastic tool in the meantime that we can be able to secure the park both during the day and the nighttime operations, but it does get vandalized daily and especially on the weekends.
How much money you think that's? You spend?
In the close to the $100,000 mark by the time the year's over.
Yeah,
And
and they're damaging the
that's
sprinklers as well.
correct. And it was reported this weekend by the mayor, and we were able to get out there. One sprinkler that's about $300 to replace was completely torn apart by either a motorcyclist or a hammer. And it completely broke the thing and gutted it out. The water discharge was about 20 or 30 feet in diameter, so that's a lot of water that was wasted out of that one sprinkler head. So it's not just the cost of the material, but it's also the water itself going out and the personnel time continuously to replace this. And it also damages the public works equipment trying to mow and take care of the property. So it's going to be a fantastic tool to take action on.
And you can catch that guy on the motorbike that's riding on the soccer fields.
And I just want to point out something on these cameras too, because when I did the demo with the company, I was amazed, and I'm a tech guy. These cameras are simply amazing. I mean, this guy had one centrally located. He was able to zoom in like a quarter mile away and read a plate on a vehicle.
wow.
That's how good these cameras are. So this is a very good system.
That's gonna be fun.
And on top of the vandalism, recently the 4-H just put in their first animals in the barn. And as soon as they put them in, less than 3 hours later, some kids from the neighborhood came over and released the animals.
Yep.
And
They would be goats?
they were caught.
They were the goats.
Yeah, they were caught and brought back to safety, and they're all locked up. But this is just one of those another thing that it would help out with.
Yeah.
Seems like we need 4.
Yeah.
Or just one that
Or
moves.
like-
around
Howard
at
Park
least
is a
two.
tremendously great park. We have a lot of great options out there. We just need to keep it safe and take care of it.
So like I said, with this platform, it does have 360 view. And if we centrally locate it, it can zoom in on all parts of the park. Okay, it literally, and like I said, it will track movement, especially if we set it up to track movement after hours when the park's supposed to be closed. It's got night vision, and if it sees movement, it will literally highlight it and follow it. And you can literally see what's going on with that movement.
So no more walking in the park at night.
Exactly. We'll catch you.
Hey.
Any questions, council?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief. So we had clarifying questions. We'll open it up to public comment. Anybody on Zoom? No? Okay. Mr. Atlan?
Someone else can make the motion, but
Well, I have one question.
let's buy
Since you came up on behind the budget, kind of a bad place to come up on.
I figured that. And I do have funding for this through the COPS. I forgot to mention that. So yes,
Okay.
through our COPS grant, I do have
Question.
funding for this project.
Okay, so it's not coming, we don't have to add this to.
It's not going to come out of general
budget. Perfect.
funds now.
Okay. Perfect. Councilmember,
Probably led with that, huh?
I will make a motion that we enter into a lease agreement for the portable camera trailer.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
How soon will that be out there, chief?
I will call them tomorrow.
All right. I just wonder if they were like 30 days out or anything,
I don't think the lead time's that long out, but it's going to be a,
because it's coming from
Weeks or
Texas,
so.
isn't it?
it is coming from
Signs out
Texas.
Of any sort that.
Oh, it's got a big blue light on it too, so they're going to know it's there.
You are under surveillance.
Does it speak to you? That'd be good. Okay, item number 5, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA Fund Update.
Good evening again. Before I get into this, I did want to mention, I was looking at our bank account. In May, we received over 42,000 in our bank account where we moved all our money over and got the higher interest rate. And I think for June, we're going to be a little over 45,000. So.
Excellent.
I know. Thank you, George,
Good job, George.
for moving things around and negotiating a higher rate for us. But along with money is our ARPA. City Council has asked that I get some information on this. I did a staff report that kind of spells out what we received. We received 2 different payments. They were equal amounts that totaled a little over $2 million. There was reporting that was needed to be done every year in April from the time we got it. Well, the year after we got it until recently. And in the original interim rule, they had very specific guidelines about what it could be used for. And I made a list of those in here. Fight the pandemic, support families and businesses, maintain vital public services, build strong resilient and equitable recovery by making investments that support long-term growth. That seems like a very general thing. But anyways, I went back and looked at the reports that were submitted over the last prior year. And I listed what was listed and what they said was spent, or what they sent documentation for what was spent. And that totaled over 600,000, was $834.81. And then since then, because we're in that interim role, I do believe that's why some of this was still, or maybe they were just in the middle of a whatever, but we did incur some additional cost. And it was 141,515 for plumbing repairs and renovation at City Hall in 2002. So I wasn't here during that time, so that seems like a lot of money for it, but it must have been a lot.
22.
22, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're like, well, that's way before. So anyways, I checked our Casel's, our financial software, and they're showing a balance of $1,208.15. Sorry, $1,208,518. And in May of 2021, they finally started doing some feedback with all these interim rules. I will say it was very tedious having to get all this documentation to them. And it had to be in specific formats. So they did a lot of, what'd they say? They got over 1,500 comments. They participated in hundreds of meetings and received correspondence from a wide range of government and other stakeholders, which I am not surprised about. So they came up with the final rule. And in the final rule, which is amazing, I think, they said if you receive less than $10 million, you can take the standard allowance for revenue loss. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to say you made more You don't even have to show that you had any loss. It's just a standard allowance that they're giving for $10 million, up to 10 million. Since we only received 2, and we already did a big project list, the balance of that is what, when I did the reporting, I just said, yes, everything else was revenue loss. So we could just close it out. And I will actually say that I typed this into the staff report. It said in the instructions for the annual report, is your jurisdiction electing to take the standard allowance? Please know that if you are a recipient receiving less than 10 million in SLFRF allocations, you are encouraged to say yes. And so I was encouraged to say yes.
And so you did.
And so I did, and all I had to do was sign my name and I was done. But that means we have $1,208 and $208,518 sitting in an ARPA funds account that is now free-ish as far as the treasurer's reserve concerned to spend as council and the public would consider doing that. And obviously we don't need, I didn't give any of this expecting an answer today, like, yay, let's go do that. But it is something to think about because we're going to come back soon and talk about capital, what we have for capital spending. And if we need some extra money to finish up a project, or there is a project that you guys might want to use this money for, it is now available without any oversight as far as reporting is required.
Thank you, Jody. Well, it's no secret how I feel about it. So, are there any clarifying questions? for
Yes.
Jody.
There is.
Okay.
Your $141,000 cost incurred by the city for plumbing issues.
Yeah.
That was an insurance issue as well. So did we
Yeah.
receive insurance funds back from that?
We did.
If we did, that needs to be put back into
Yeah.
the ARPA?
I'll have to look in that. I did not know that was an insurance.
Yeah, that
money.
one. And I also, I think we had to replace carpet because of that as well.
Okay.
Couple times.
Okay.
And then the emergency fencing repair at the wastewater treatment plant, was that because somebody drove into it?
Yes.
And then, so that, did we not have an insurance claim on that as well?
Well, unfortunately, if we put it in ARPA, I hope we didn't do an insurance claim because we weren't supposed to. I mean, they only wanted us to do stuff where we couldn't get the money other places.
Well, but
But-
if we
Yeah.
received, an
Right.
insurance back.
Right.
We
But then
can-
we might have to let them know and then just say, yeah, we need some more
Yeah, but
revenue.
we replaced $89,000 worth of fence.
Right.
So
Because of the, so I mean, if these are insurance
Right.
issues, we can allocate them out of the ARPA funds? Can we make
I'll look into that.
Cause
Well-
I mean,
Because the only thing is, like I said, I took the balance shortfall of all this and said our revenue replacement was the difference. So if we move this out, I'll have to let them know that we received insurance and then ask for more revenue replacement.
mhm.
It's just a kind of a shell game thing, but it's definitely doable, especially if we already submitted the claim and received the money. Because
Well,
I don't
yeah,
want them
and
to
I
ever
mean,
come back and say, you got that money twice. or
Well, and it's
spent
not an
it."
insignificant amount either.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's like
yeah.
89,141 and 16.
Right,
So it's not an insignificant amount.
yeah,
and even the purchase of the building.
That was,
that's not insurance.
No, that's not
No.
insurance.
Oh,
but
that was ARPA funds.
I know it was ARPA
that
funds,
was
but it
approved.
didn't qualify as ARPA funds.
Yeah, it did.
No,
We
it didn't
approved it.
because.
Well, they
one of
approved it.
the- Who approved? The
The council
council
approved
approved
it.
it.
But what I
One of-
mean is everything on this list got approved by the,
I
because the last submitted
I-
report with
I
all this
understand.
listed was approved as submitted.
But, and even you mentioned, one of the choices we could not make was something that would not last or needed extraordinary maintenance. That was in the early rulings with ARPA. Which of course the building next door has.
Well, the final ruling.
I
has
guess no one
changed a
told them.
lot.
Okay,
I was
um,
part of that.
we'll open it up to public comment. Anyone on Zoom? No, okay. Council discussion? I, it's not been a secret that I was very disappointed that none of these funds went to the people of Ione.
They did $67,000.
They went to the business owners. Nothing went to any programs to help families during this time. We could have done something, and maybe we still can, but we had families that were isolated. We had kids that were out of school. Not everybody had internet access, and it was tough for them. And, you know, this is, you know, when I see a dog fountain being spent, which we changed, but I'd like to see something out of this 1.2 million go to the community, because that's what these were originally intended to do. That was the spirit of this, and to help cities with their infrastructure, but all of it had to be tied into COVID. And I understand now, because we were slow to the gun and didn't spend it, now we can spend it. But I would like to see just something done with a small portion of that money, or whatever. So that's where I'm at. Something we could discuss.
Certainly.
Well, we have time. That's the nice thing.
Now,
I mean, we don't want, like you said, spend, you know, 10 years talking about it, not.
No,
doing
we
anything.
don't, we have to allocate these funds by December
No, they
2026.
changed.
That's all
They
changed.
changed that. Okay, so that took care of that. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. So there's no clock ticking anymore, but in a sense, there kind of is, that we don't want to 10 years from
No.
now still be discussing what to do.
Right.
With money that now, what we talked with SB1, the longer you go, whatever you're going to do, going to cost more.
so you're not asking for any action, it's information.
Yeah, I
only?
was just trying to give you
Okay.
guys an update on this. It was been
Okay.
asked a couple times, so I just want to make
Great,
sure. it
though.
got
I
clarified.
know that people were asking for itemization for quite a while, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, reports and communication. Wait a minute, do we need public comment on that? No, we already did it, right? There's a lot of items tonight. Item number K, reports and communications from city attorney.
Okay, yes, I do have a report. So as I gave a message to you all here a few days ago, I wanted to clarify a response that I had to, or a misstatement that I had at the meeting where you adopted the measure resolution. The misstatement that I made was the question asked was, when can the appointment process take place in the event the measure passes? I made this misstatement of saying that it can happen at the next 2024. That is incorrect. In working with Janice and putting all of this through the elections department, because the clerk is on the ballot, the law says that you can change the clerk to an appointed position after the expiration of the current term. Because there is a current term on the ballot, that current term will go to election. The election will occur in 2024. In the event that there's a vacancy, so if nobody runs, then that would operate to allow you all to make the appointment. In the event somebody does run and qualifies and is thereby certified and appointed, or the election is appointed, would serve that term from 2024 to 2028. So I wanted to just clarify my misstatement. I appreciate, working with Janice in the elections department to help clarify that. And I hope that that I can answer any questions that you have, and to make sure that the public understands that that was not a correct piece of information.
Okay, thank you. Item number L, reports and communications from city manager.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Recently, I had a chance to talk to a supervisor, and the subject of Brickyard Road came up again. So in one of the future agendas, I will bring up whether the city of Ione would like to take the Brickyard Road from the county. But I do have Mr. Mackey. He wanted to comment on some of the benefits of taking Brickyard Road from the county. Mr. Mackey.
Thank you again, council. Brickyard Road was offered to us back in the early 2000s by the county. which time the council did want to move forward with it, and it was never taken the full distance. Wasn't signed over for. Brickyard Road is a very important emergency evacuation and fire threat access road for us. Even before Wildflower was even thought of, that served our community as far as our safety boundaries go for access in the event of brush fire, or manzanita, which is a high threat to us in that area. It also serves as an evacuation zone for the city itself. Now that our city's growing, and you've seen what happened up in Paradise where they had one way out. We have 4 ways to get out. This would provide another avenue for us to be able to get out, even though the Brickyard Road's in disrepair in some places at this time. At least the road is there, and all we have to do is do improvements to it versus going through the EIR and the studies and the millions of dollars and everything it takes to put in a new road. This would just be an improvement. It provides us access directly to the highway. 2 separate highways, the 88 and 124. And as we found out bless you, as we found out on Church Street incident we had last month with a complete shutdown of Church Street, Brickyard Road provided the artery for us to be able to maneuver people out of Wildflower as well as the Church Street zone. So it does serve a purpose, even though it's outside the city right now. I encourage the council to think real deeply into accepting this and annexing that whole area. In our general plan, it does call that area the triangle, and the triangle is listed in our general plan. And it does serve not only an industrial purpose for growth for the city, but like I said, it's a huge safety environment for us. You guys have all seen the fires out in that area, the big and small. Historically, I think our last one, the big one, was about 15 years ago, and it has a very huge impact on us in that area. So now that we have some individuals that reside out in the brush at times, it will also provide the law enforcement their avenues to be able to gain access to give us a safe environment. So a long story short, please look in and really think about the safety for the city itself. It's an old road, but it's a very, very well needed road for people to travel for their emergency escape routes. Did I leave anything out or anything anybody wants to know? Okay.
Thank you.
And if you put together a staff report, we can put it on the agenda.
Yes, so it'll be coming on the future agenda, so.
And
just wanted to
for-
give you a heads up.
For anybody that's had to ride on the back of a fire engine through those 4-wheel drive roads, you really appreciate Brickyard Road. So thank you.
Until you turn the corner.
The next item I have is, after much discussions and many phone calls, the school district finally put the school access easement on the agenda for this Thursday.
Good.
Mr. Borge spent numerous phone calls, hours of time contributing to this effort. Same thing with Mr. Mitchell. He spent some time, his background information. Chief Mackey, Chief Alred, they all contributed. This was a collaborative effort on many people to finally get this on the agenda. So it's not 100% done yet, but I don't want to jinx it, but I'm hopeful that the city or the school district approves it this Thursday.
Is it
And
going
this-
on their
this-
regular agenda or their consent agenda?
The regular.
A regular agenda for
Regular?
consent and approval.
I was kind of hoping it was
And
consent.
This is more than just an easement. This
Yes.
is going to free up the school. and
Yes, ma'am.
More access to the school. People
Yes.
aren't going to be
There's-
all parked on one side
The
of the.
benefits are going to be many.
Ken can probably talk. about it.
Safety issue is huge.
This was originally a fire requirement from 1997 that I've been battling with the school district since that time period. So I personally want to thank everyone involved to make this happen. This provides the emergency access not only for the kids, the kids and the buses to get out, but mainly for the fire, police and ambulances to get in the event of a tragedy or an event in that area that we have not had before. And our gridlock in that area is horrendous, and there's just no way to get in or out during school hours, let alone during an incident. Just to have a simple medical aid up there right now is a gridlock. So I want to thank everybody that's involved in this, and we really need to push the school district to complete it. And I want to thank Mr. Borg for his efforts to make sure the thing goes through, because it's the bulldozer was in place. It pushed right up to the fence line, and then everything stopped.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody again.
Oh,
So
it's
it's for the kids,
it's
it's
a
for
win,
our
for
community.
sure.
And the original intent was the back portables, they weren't supposed to go past portable 13 before they put this in. Well, they're up to portable 32 now. But our school's not growing, remember that?
Yes, no,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay, so, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
I'd like to thank Thomas Borge
Yeah,
for his
please.
efforts and his financing for this project.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
significant. But both.
I want to say it was 480,000
Yes, ma'am. 483
or 83 back
back.
from the school district.
So again, I think, like you said, ma'am, this is a win for the entire city.
Yes,
So.
agreed. And it's about time.
Yes, yes, it is.
And it was nice to see everybody working together
Mm-hmm.
to push this
Yes, ma'am.
through.
But it'll allow Mr. Borge to complete Wildflower, the last two units. And then also it will allow some opportunities for Gold Village to finally move forward. So
Yeah.
again, it's a big win for the city.
Very big. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is I did have additional conversations with Mark Bartley. He's the Police Officers Association representative. So I will be coming back in the future agenda to disclose some of those discussions and to move forward. I also met with Chris Strong regarding the entrance of Castle Oaks. We had some comments recently regarding what was going on, so I met with him. He said he's going to send me a monthly email as to the status of all the things he's doing and the regular maintenance involved. And I will disperse that to you, council members, on a regular basis. And then finally, I think I sent you an email on this, but we did receive a check from Castle Oaks for 19,000 regarding the monies that they owed us for the percentages increase. And I think they're going to be sending us another 6,200 for 23. Well, all the effort that Dominic did over the last 3 years. So
Great.
You'll be getting less from now on.
that's all I have. Thank you,
That's all
ma'am.
you have? Okay, we'll start with council comments, committee reports.
I had none.
I have none.
Parks is next
Okay.
week.
There hasn't been a wastewater or finance.
No.
No, we did all our finances,
Okay.
wastewater's next week.
Councilman Rhodes?
I just got one thing. I think it was Council Member Ratton a couple of meetings ago requested that we get the cost of what these public requests are costing. People don't understand what these things cost, what they are. So just an example, I got an email from the city clerk about a week ago, and it was CC'd to the attorney. It says, Stacy, I've received a PRA from so-and-so asking for all emails and texts from certain people in the community, ARSA, CDCR, Regional Water Board, grand jury staff, ledger dispatch, fair political practices, all the way back to 2022. So I did that. So here is 480 pages for you, Andy, to go through and give it to who requested it.
But you're not the city clerk. How are you providing public records?
It's my emails.
Oh, okay. This is. Yeah. Okay.
Here you go, Janice.
Okay, Mr. Mitchell.
I just want to thank everyone at the car show and chili cook-off. I know Gary mentioned it earlier, IBCA and all their volunteers and all the sponsors, really makes you proud of our town. There's a movie night, June 28th, Shrek, out at Howard Park at 8-ish.
Are you in it?
Look like, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, well, we had somebody on Zoom talk about getting some sort of active traffic committee. I mean, I would throw that to you, chief, to maybe toss around and.
We'll look at it and bring
Before.
something to council.
Okay. And he's already gone over the school. I had another one, but I think I'll hold off on that one.
I have some. You forgot me.
I did.
Yeah, you did. Skipped over me.
Very long day.
I only have two. I would like to look at the cost and feasibility of getting a new pavement plan, since ours goes back to 2015 and is woefully outdated. Woefully. I would also, this is actually more of a request of information for who is responsible for the gate in the gated community at Castle Oaks Park, the new development in Castle Oaks. Is that covered under a CFD that the city is covering it? Do they have a homeowners? I don't know if Public Works is going to be responsible for that. I'd like some clarity as to who's responsible for the maintenance of that gate.
And the streets, how about add that on?
Well, okay, and the streets within that gated community as well.
Okay, so, we are going to resume to close session.
So you can
Tomorrow night, don't forget the water agency meeting. George, you can.
I'd like to resume the regular meeting of June 18th to order. Direction was given during closed session and there is no information to report out.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. I'm excited to get that.